Before a single root touched Amish soil, it went into a bucket first. Not water, not fertilizer. Something they made from what was already on the farm, and something most of us have completely forgotten about. The results those farmers got with this one step were the kind that made neighbors stop and stare. And today I'm going to show you exactly what it was, how to make it, and how to use it in your own garden. This weekend if you want. Welcome to Amish Homestead Roots, where we bring back the practical skills that worked for generations before gardening got expensive. Hit subscribe so you don't miss what's coming, because we go deep on this stuff every single week. Now let's get into it. To understand why old farmers soaked their roots, you have to understand what farming looked like before the mid-20th century. There were no garden centers, no online orders arriving in 2 days. If your crops failed, you didn't just have a disappointing season, you had a hard winter ahead. That kind of pressure makes people pay very close attention to what actually works, and then hold on to it. Across Amish communities in Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Indiana, and in Appalachian homesteads and small family farms across the rural South, root soaking before transplanting was standard practice. Not a folk remedy, not something the eccentric neighbor did. It was procedure. The same way you'd sharpen a blade before cutting, you soaked your roots before planting. It was just understood. The two most common soaking liquids were wood ash water and compost tea. We're going to cover both in detail, exactly how to make them, how long to soak, and which plants respond best. But first, here's the important thing to understand about why these two things specifically. Wood ash had been used in gardens for centuries. Farmers noticed, long before anyone could explain the chemistry, that plants near fire rings came in thicker, stronger, and more productive than plants grown further away. Compost tea was the natural result of what happens when you let rich, finished compost steep in water. You get a liquid alive with microbial activity, the kind of living soil biology that roots are designed to work with. Now, I know what some of you are thinking right now. If this really works so well, why isn't there more written about it? Why didn't it survive into mainstream gardening? And that's a fair question worth answering directly. It did survive in old USDA extension bulletins from the 1920s and 30s, in farm journals from that era, and in communities like the Amish who simply never stopped doing it. It wasn't erased, it was quietly deprioritized when there was money to be made selling chemical alternatives. After World War II, companies that had been producing nitrogen compounds for explosives suddenly had massive manufacturing capacity and needed a new market. Synthetic fertilizer was the answer, and to sell it at scale, they needed farmers, and eventually backyard gardeners, to believe that what came in a bag was more reliable than what came from the land. The Amish ignored that message entirely, and their gardens kept producing the way gardens always had. Everything you're going to learn today is still verifiable, still documented, and still works exactly the way it always did. That's not nostalgia, that's just a long track record. Now here's the part that actually makes this work, and once you see it clearly, you'll understand why the timing of the soak matters just as much as what's in it. When you pull a plant from a seedling tray or pick up a bare root tree from a nursery, those roots are stressed. They've been separated from the soil ecosystem they were growing in. The beneficial microbes that were helping them absorb nutrients are gone. The plant is essentially starting over, and it has to do that at exactly the moment it's most vulnerable. What root soaking does is close that gap. Think about it this way. Imagine running a race on an empty stomach after a long travel day. Now imagine running that same race after a full meal and a good night's sleep. The distance is the same, the conditions are the same, but the outcome is very different. That's what you're doing for your transplants when you soak their roots before planting. You're giving them resources before the stress hits, not after. Wood ash water works because wood ash is rich in potassium and calcium, two of the minerals plants need in the highest quantities, and two of the minerals most commonly depleted in garden soil that's been worked for years. When roots soak in properly diluted wood ash water for a few hours, they absorb those minerals directly through the root tissue. By the time they go into the ground, they already have what they need to push growth immediately instead of spending the first 2 weeks just trying to recover. Compost tea works differently, but just as powerfully. When you brew compost tea, you create a liquid teeming with beneficial bacteria and the kind of fungi that form direct partnerships with plant roots. These organisms extend the root's reach into the soil, help break down nutrients into forms the plant can use, and protect against soil-borne disease. When you soak roots in compost tea before planting, you're inoculating them, surrounding them with a living community of helpers before they ever touch the ground. When you combine both methods or alternate between them, that's when you start to see the results that made old-time neighbors shake their heads. Let's talk about how to actually make these soaks, because the recipe matters, and getting it wrong wastes your effort. For wood ash water, you need two things: clean hardwood ash and water. That means ash from a fireplace or wood stove burning untreated wood. Not charcoal ash, not ash from pressure-treated lumber, not ash from anything that's been painted or chemically treated. Just clean hardwood ash. The ratio is 1 cup of ash to 1 gallon of water. Stir it well, then let it settle for at least 2 hours. What you're waiting for is the ash to sink and the water above it to clear slightly. That cleared water above the settled ash is what you'll use. Strain it through a cloth or fine mesh strainer into your soaking bucket. Do not scoop up the thick sludge at the bottom. That's too concentrated and can burn roots. One important note: use this soak fresh. Don't let the ash sit in the water for more than 24 hours before using it, because the alkalinity increases over time and can damage delicate roots. Fresh, properly diluted and well strained, it's safe and effective. Sitting too long and too concentrated, it becomes a problem. This is where most people get it wrong, if they get it wrong at all. For compost tea, you need finished compost and water at a ratio of 1 part compost to 5 parts water. If you have an aquarium air pump or bubbler, run it in the brew for 24 hours. That aerates the liquid and dramatically increases the microbial activity. If you don't have one, a passive steep works too. Let it sit for 48 hours, stirring a few times that each day. Strain it well through cloth and use it within a few hours of finishing, because the microbial life is most active right after brewing. A standard 5-gallon bucket handles most vegetable transplants easily. For bare root fruit trees, use a larger tub. You want the roots fully submerged, not crammed in. For soak times, here's the general guide. Tomatoes, peppers, eggplant, and brassicas like cabbage, broccoli, and cauliflower, 2 to 4 hours. Berry bushes and perennial herbs, 4 to 6 hours. Bare root fruit trees, overnight, ideally 8 to 12 hours in compost tea. Seedlings from cell trays, even 1 to 2 hours makes a real difference. The plants that benefit most are anything that goes through transplant shock, everything you're moving from one container to another, or any bare root plant. The plants where this doesn't apply are the ones you sow directly into the ground from seed: carrots, parsnips, beets, radishes. Those stay in the ground from day one and soaking doesn't enter into it. A practical tip on timing: do this the evening before your planting day. Set up your bucket after dinner, get the roots in, and they're ready to go in the ground by morning. It fits naturally into a normal planting week without adding a separate task day. If you're finding this useful, take a second and hit the like button right now. It tells YouTube this is worth putting in front of more gardeners, and it genuinely helps. And if you're not subscribed yet, now is a good time. We have a video coming very soon on the Amish approach to soil building that connects directly to what you're learning today. You'll want that one in your feed when it drops. Now let's talk about results. And I want to be straightforward with you here, because the title of this video says yields tripled, and I don't want to just throw that out there without being honest about what that actually means. Tripling your yield is not a guarantee. What I can tell you is this: the historical records, the old extension documentation, and the consistent experience of gardeners who use this method show that plants established with root soaking produce significantly more than the same variety planted without it. For tomatoes and peppers especially, where transplant shock normally costs you 2 to 3 weeks of early growth, eliminating that shock can mean 40, 60, even 80% more fruit per plant over a full season. In good conditions with decent soil and the right variety, some growers do see results close to triple compared to their previous unprepped plantings. But here's the realistic version. If your soil has other serious problems, compaction, drainage issues, deep nutrient deficiency, root soaking helps, but it won't override all of that on its own. This is one part of a system, a powerful part, but one part. You'll still have off years, weather still matters, pests still happen. This doesn't fix everything. What it does is give your plants the strongest possible start. And in gardening, the start determines a lot of what follows. One of the people in our community, she's been growing peppers and tomatoes in Missouri for over 30 years, tried the wood ash soak for the first time last spring on her pepper transplants. Same seeds she'd used for years, same bed, same watering schedule. Her plants set flowers almost 2 weeks earlier than they ever had before. Her neighbor walked over, looked at the plants, and asked what product she was using. When she told him, wood ash, water, overnight in a bucket, he didn't believe her at first. She saved him some ash from her fireplace and he tried it himself the following planting. That's the kind of result this method produces. Not magic, not instant, but consistent and repeatable when you do it right. Here's how I think about the next set of tips. The soak is the foundation. These are what you stack on top once you've got the basic method working. Each one adds a layer, and together they're the reasons some heritage gardens look like they're operating under completely different rules than everything growing around them. The first addition is willow water, and it's worth understanding why it works. If you've ever pushed a willow branch into a glass of water and watched it sprout roots within days, that's not coincidence. Willow contains a natural compound that essentially signals roots to grow aggressively. Scientists have a long chemical name for it, but all you need to know is that it's the same root-triggering response that expensive commercial rooting powders are trying to copy, and it comes free from any willow tree. Cut a handful of young willow twigs, bruise them slightly, soak them in water overnight, and add that water into your compost tea soak for bare root trees and shrubs. Those roots go into the ground already primed to establish fast. The second addition is a tablespoon of raw apple cider vinegar in your wood ash soak for acid-loving plants. Blueberries, strawberries, raspberries, these plants prefer slightly acidic conditions. The vinegar adjusts the pH of the soak liquid just enough to put it in the range they respond to. It's a small detail, but it makes a noticeable difference in how quickly those plants settle in after transplanting. Third, don't throw out the leftover soak liquid. Whatever is left in the bucket after your roots come out, pour it directly around the base of the plants after they go in the ground. Use it as the first watering. You're extending the benefit of the soak past planting day and giving the soil around the root zone the same start you gave the roots themselves. And fourth, if you're transplanting across a large area and there's time between soaking and planting, keep a small bucket of diluted compost tea with you in the garden and briefly dip each plant's roots right before it goes in the hole. It keeps the roots from drying out in the air and gives one final layer of microbial contact at the exact moment the root meets new soil. None of these cost you anything significant. The materials are either free or pennies. What they require is the intention to prepare. And that's the thing that separates the gardens that produce reliably from the ones that just get by. What I keep coming back to is this. The farmers who developed and passed down these methods didn't have the luxury of experimenting carelessly. Every planting season mattered. So when a practice survived for generations, passed from parent to child, neighbor to neighbor, written in the margins of farm journals, it wasn't sentiment that kept it alive. It was consistent results on real soil, in real weather, with real consequences if it stopped working. That's what root soaking is, not a trend, not a trick. Just one of the things that quietly worked for a long time and still does. Try it this season on even one bed and see what you notice. Drop a comment below. Tell me what you're planting, where you are, and how it goes. I read every one of those, and this community is genuinely worth being part of. If this video gave you something real, share it with one person who gardens. That's how this kind of knowledge travels. Subscribe if you haven't yet, hit the bell, and I'll see you in the next one. We're covering the Amish method for building soil that stays fertile for decades without ever buying a bag of anything. You'll want that one.